because they have probably an 1.5 to 2 inch water line.
That's
they
just
use-
tap-in, that's not including the construction, right?
That's a tap fee, yes.
Right.
And what concerned us, one of the things that concerned us was in the old ordinance, it said that, how many days did they have to hook up to that in the original ordinance? it 90 days?
I think it says it's in here 6 days, it says, doesn't it?
Yeah, it was pretty low, I think you stepped up to
Yeah.
120 now, right? Is that what it is?
Okay, so they had 6 days to respond. So you're asking somebody to pay $1,800 plus the installation of the pipe from the street to the house, whatever that may be, in 6 days' notice.
Well, I think it's stepped up to 120 now by the new ordinance.
Yes, the new ordinance makes it 120.
So,
Mostly 120.
I mean, it's your community, it's Caernarvon the community. You wanna run a water and sewer business here, you gotta have people maintain them and run them, and it's money. Should we give this away and then, that just, I think that's foolish thinking.
Yeah,
Check
but
any- check any other
we don't run a
business.
business here, okay, we provide a service. Okay, the other thing is with public water, I know you, believe the water is better than private well could be, but that can also be used against people, cause in California, they were actually shutting water off to people that weren't complying with their COVID or whatever regulations out there. So it's nice to have your own private well that's good, clean water, it can be safe, is what I'm saying.
Did you ever sample your water well out there?
Oh, yes,
Yeah,
yes.
well, I
It's
mean,
good.
you just haven't been in the water, I've been in the water business for 50, 60 years. And believe me, I've seen too many, we sample our water, and we run into something in our water that's, isn't legal to be in there. We have to pay DEP, and EPA, we have to pay them money, it's all kinds of, I mean, just like we're even fined by EPA $6,000 a year, just to be a water company. But let's get back to the purification here. Just check with EEP, that's the federal, DPE is your Pennsylvania. Just check with any of them and have them tell you that your well is as good as any water that you supply from the township, because if we have one little problem there, we gotta post it. You just look at your reports when you get your bill, it's on there. We gotta report that, anything that goes on, any contamination. And, you talk about lead and copper. We use sample for lead and copper. We're required every 2 years to sample for lead and copper. Well, the ladies ought to know what lead and copper does if they become pregnant. It's a tragic thing. You have lead and copper, in your water system. That comes from your water lines coming in, that isn't coming out of the ground. Because it's the same type of thing. We have to pass that test every time they require, we're taking samples and then correct anything that's contaminated. And believe me, you guys know as well as I do, every year, and Eric knows too, every year they come up with something new that EEP, DPA says that you're going to have to sample for to see if it's in your water. And you know, it's just, I just think personally, to me, it's a foolish move if you have good water, whether it costs a lot of money. Wouldn't you sooner have better health? And the cost, what are you gonna put the
The
cost
argument has
on?
been on this board, I think one of the members mentioned that a lot of the people in Mill Road are tapping into like the same well that you're getting your water
Oh,
from,
right.
the same.
You don't know what I'm talking about. Where does our water come from? It comes from aquifers.
Yes,
Our aquifers are 150 to 300 feet. Your well's 300 feet underground, drawing from that aquifer? That's just foolish talking, you don't know about water if you talk
there's
that
some
much.
wells around here that are over
I'm
300
at
feet.
I don't care
260.
what they
Yeah.
are.
Now,
We-
up in
how many-
Mountain
how many
Village, we're
aquifers?
fortunate, I'm like 120, I think, but there are many wells,
We're too big.
especially on that hill over there, that are like 300 plus.
Bob, you
Private
mentioned-
wells.
Bob,
Let's
you
get down
mentioned,
back to Mill Road. When we put that line through Mill Road to hook up to a new well, It's to loop our system, so we have to all get the water rate verified. We waived that, whatever it is, 4 or 5 houses plus Nistle's, we waived that mandatory, tap fee. Right, Eric? I think we did, didn't we? We waived all those houses there. And that again is like, I was here a couple months ago. If anybody wants to talk to us about some of this, come to the water meetings. That's what you have to do, come to water meetings. And, just like you're saying about where the water comes from. Our water comes from, I would say probably at least 4, if not 6, different aquifers around the town. And that's water that is deep, some of it not quite as deep as others. So you tell me there's wells around here that's drawn from 6 aquifers.
Oh, no, most of them are drawn from one.
Well, I
They
think
could be drawn from one of your 6, a few of them,
Well, where would they be drawn from ours?
under the ground. I don't know which aquifer is where.
That's my point.
Those 2 in town.
Yeah, but where are all our wells at? They're in the valley there, Mill Road. Where are our wells at?
This is an argument.
Where, I know, but where are our wells at? Our wells are all on Mill Road, okay, in the same valley that you're trying to
So-
get these people that have working wells to tie in. That's all I was getting at.
So you people are telling me on this board, you would sooner have wells than us have water and Caernarvon Township Authority water and sewer.
Mr. Weaver, can I ask
What
you,
you're saying.
you brought up the EPA, and I've worked around the EPA, and they use terms like acceptable levels. Acceptable human consumption levels. So are you telling me that you've never had a contaminant go through your pipes and it got to the house before you could stop it? That's never happened in this water authority?
We sample, if there's contamination there, you're gonna get notified immediately.
Because every time you do a hot tap, or you have a leak in the pipe and you turn the water pressure down, you have the chance of contaminating that water line.
Yeah,
And it's gonna get to the
bacteria.
house before you catch it. So that means that you could be feeding people with contaminated water, not regularly, but it can happen. And the EPA uses the term acceptable levels. So they take a broad spectrum of how much water did you pump out during the day?
And what
and
that
how much
acceptable level
contamination.
is?
That's an acceptable level.
Acceptable level is 0.25 milligrams of fluorine level in the water. That's low. Ours is 1.25, so forth. Acceptable is what they're talking about is 0.525 milligrams you go below 2.5, they'll shut you down. And
Well, all I know is, when I was a kid, we drank right out of the spring with a mug from the mantle. We'd wash it out, and we'd take a drink of that spring.
We're still
He
here.
knows exactly what I'm talking about. His whole family did it, and my whole family did it for forever. And no one ever even got sick. And now you're telling me that my well will make me sick, and your
Okay.
chlorine, bromine water won't?
well, now you're putting
We need
words in my
more
mouth.
citizens
I did not say that.
I think the point Bob's trying to make is, we serve over 1,300 customers in the township, either commercial or residential. The Mill Road project you're referencing, that was over a $300,000 cost to run that pipe, and that's a cost that the water authority bore. And we get that money by collecting water fees from customers. And we just built a $4 million well down in the industrial park. Anybody with, like, I know a couple of you guys have been down there to look at it. It costs money to maintain a water system. There's a lot of people in the township that rely on the water. And what we're asking the board to do is to back us up and help us maintain that customer base. We realize some of these people that have wells, and if you don't, and it's grandfathered in, you have an old home, we discussed that. We agreed with you to that point, but we're asking at the end of the day for the board to back us up on maintaining our revenue stream so that we can maintain a safe, clean drinking water system.
Yes, that's not in debate. If you put a new structure where there's public water provided, you gotta hook up, that's
And
the
it
ordinance.
costs money to maintain the system.
Hey, listen, we didn't set this up we're separate entities, even though we're still the same township. I mean, you're a separate entity, so are we. You come to us to make these ordinances, and you come to us to enforce these ordinances. And I mean, all it says in here is that we have the final say on that. You come to us with an argument and say, hey, we know these wells are bad, then you tell us that. I mean, it's as easy as that. I mean, all I'm looking at, like you mentioned Nisley's. Okay, Gary Nisley, he has two businesses there between the trucking company and his hardware store and the house, the rental property. He'd get hammered with 2 commercial and 1 residential hookup. And this was all happening at what point? Right around the COVID thing? He didn't have that kind of money to do that. But just because you decided to make a loop through there, now all of a sudden he's forced within how many days to tie in? That was where the argument started.
Along with all the other homeowners, I mean, you have people on fixed incomes along there, I'm sure.
We understand though, we understand you make money from them tie-ins, we
We
do.
never told him he had a hookup.
Well, why did they all come to the meeting?
Pardon?
They all came to the meeting. Brubacher showed up, Gary
What
Nisley
meeting
showed
was
up.
that?
We had a public meeting here where they showed up and complained about what happened with you guys making them tie in.
That absolutely happened.
I think it was the one where we had this first ordinance to look at, where they.
That's where this whole thing started. But trust me, we're here to work together, we get it,
So it's
okay?
been reviewed, we're gonna advertise it, we're gonna move forward. Our citizens have a choice, the ones that, you know, are grandfathered.
Just pre-existing stuff. I mean, new construction, obviously, businesses with sprinkler systems, we get that. But if there's something that there's an argument that you need to bring to us, then communicate with us. Because there's been a lot of lack of communication between your board and our board. Let's just keep that open-ended.
I agree with that. That happened 2-3 months ago.
I understand, and that's why, you know what, here we are. Call us, contact us, and vice versa.
Okay, so next on the agenda, Morgantown entrance signs, estimate update. Any update?
No, I haven't received anything.
Okay. And then 2021 street work bids update.
Eric and I are gonna meet next week and do the review for both the Sunoco work and the township.
Do you want to do a road inspection? How do you want to do that?
It's already on the schedule.
It's already on the meeting schedule.
I think she actually wrote it in your calendar. Okay, township reports.
It says 2020 audit report, it's actually, the audit that took place in 2020 was for the 2019 year. So there's a copy in the back, and if anyone wants information, I guess they can contact me or want to make a right to know if you needed, but it's for public view. So, and the board got it electronically.
Yes. We're good. Maintenance report. Is there anything else on yours?
Now,
Maintenance report.
I need to know whether the board is agreeable. I was approached by Caernarvon Lancaster. They're gonna be tarring and chipping their portion of Best Road. I'd like to get on board with them, and then we would just reimburse them. I did a quick math. We're looking at about less than $3,500 to do our portion. If you're agreeable with it, they need to put the square foot yardage in for next week. You don't have to pay them until it's done August.
That would really make sense if it cost us more than that to move
Do
it.
it yourself.
I agree.
I'm okay.
I just need to make, if you're agreeable, I'll contact Terry, and we'll go along with Eric, and I'll add that to our work.
Anything else?
That's it.
SEO report. Library. Tax collector. Police department. Anything to add?
Yeah. We have an opportunity to apply for a free vehicle from the county. Before I pursue it, I just wanted to see if everyone was okay with it. The vehicle would be an unmarked vehicle. It'd be used for surveillance, mostly drug activity stuff. It came up yesterday, I think, is when I found out about it. So I was going to write a letter to the chief of the county detective, but before I do, just wanted to see if the board's willing to take that on, and it'd be something that obviously they would have to register and insure. So
What's the car gonna look like exactly?
No, I'm just.
I was waiting for it.
You mean, like, what year is it? Is it a new one?
Yeah, so,
It's free, it's for me.
Is it a new vehicle?
no.
Is it worth it?
It's probably gonna be a beater, yeah.
Th-
It's probably something that was confiscated or something like that. That's the vehicles they use. And when we have tips and stuff, we've been having to go up to Reading to borrow a vehicle. And a lot of times we're not able to act on a tip for like over a week because we don't have anything unmarked that we can use. So it's up to you, but it's something I hate to miss out on.
This is at no cost to us for maintenance either, right?
Well, maintenance,
Maintenance
once we
of the
take
vehicle
possession
will
of
be
it.
yours.
Yeah, I mean, I'll get the vehicle, but
Well,
once we have it, I mean,
right, and it turns into a
maintenance,
maintenance
fuel,
nightmare, we can get rid of it.
inspection, everything, yeah, it's on us.
It's free, it's free.
I would
Right.
say, I would say, yeah.
I would
We
say-
used to have one, if you remember when it blew up,
Oh, the minivan?
yeah.
And that's exactly what this is, probably something.
Well, I don't know, I mean, he didn't, I'm certain I'm not gonna get to pick the color or the age of
What
it.
it is what it is, yeah, I would say.
Like BMW or Aston Martin or something like
Maybe. But I can always reach out to you guys, like, if I'm allowed to apply for it and he tells me what it is, I can always email you all and tell you if it's,
Now, I do have one question with that. Does that require one of our officers to be called to the county or the state or the wherever?
it's being offered
for an
because
investigation?
we're active and we have 2 officers that are cross sworn right now with the county.
Right.
And it's actually the task force that will be providing this. So, yeah, I mean, it would be used for that, but it will be ours to follow up on things that we have going on here in town.
The only thing I worry about is if we get that, and it's free, so that's great, but if we get that and it pulls an officer away from our township, at this particular point in time, that. you can
That
explain-
can't happen, because it would be, if there was a specific detail, it would be an overtime, something, and that would still be reimbursable like it has been.
I think that was a yes, that Pete-
Approve a motion to authorize him to apply.
I would make that motion,
So I'd look into it.
yes.
Officer Renner, when you tow cars, are you using a towing company from our town? Or are you?
Sometimes, we have about 4 agencies we've used.
But are they out of, our township?
One of them is,
Why do you do that?
why do we
I'm just
use
wondering
multiple
because,
agencies?
yeah, I mean, why wouldn't you use towing companies right here in Morgantown? What would be a reason why you wouldn't?
Spreading the wealth.
But wouldn't we wanna spread it to our own?
There is no
People?
requirement, there was
No,
no
I know.
requirement,
I
but,
know, yeah, I was just curious.
We're working on a tow policy.
And is it going to be that we would use somebody in our own backyard?
It's gonna be rotating.
It's gonna be rotating, whoever applies, as long as they show us the insurance and.
So it could be from Reading.
Their application.
It could be-
Possibly if they're interested.
But
in
the
getting on
chance
the
that someone
list.
from Reading wanted to come down here to tow someone somewhere, I mean, I
There's
don't
also
know.
questions
I
on a
don't know.
timely manner as well. There's a
It's-
lot
I'm
of,
sorry, what?
there's also things about, being here in a timely manner. We're not gonna bring them from Quakertown, cause that's an hour and a half ride, you know what I mean, till they get. So, we are working on this,
Well,
we're gonna refine this.
Personally, I would like to see, our own people here, if somebody else applies, hey, too bad, we take our own people first.
Well, and we have done that, but, you
Yeah.
get into a situation where you have an accident blocking the roadway and our regular guy can't come,
Right,
then you gotta reach to someone else.
yes,
We
it happened to
have
me with my
a big
son.
vehicle that maybe they don't have a big tow truck. I mean, there's a lot of factors involved in that. It's not
Mhm.
just about, just putting it all in one
Yeah.
basket.
And that's why I'm asking, because, we had a tow truck come and it was not one of our people. And I'm all about keeping the money here, in our township, and saving as much money as we can and not, squandering money.
I didn't
Because,
realize we had more than one tow company. in
yes, we
town.
do. We do.
We do?
Well, that you're using,
No, I mean, who in our
The
town
agency
besides
itself,
Schaefer?
the agency itself might not be based in town, but the employees, two of them live in town and they often have a truck, so.
I don't
But
know.
ultimately, it's like, there's 4 agencies right now.
well, you're a family.
Okay, so we had a motion and a second for Matt to move forward. All in favor? Aye.
I'm sorry, who seconded?
Jack.
Jack? Anything else, Matt?
I don't have anything to add. Officer Everly, got a thank you letter. We recently hosted a death and homicide investigation course here. And the letter to him was just to thank him for the hospitality we had here.
Okay, thank you. Zoning code enforcement officer.
I don't know, I think so.
Yeah, I think so. EMS. Fire department. Park and Rec, no December meeting. Were there any notes or anything sent over for Park and Rec? Nothing?
Their minutes are called up, but they meet soon.
Okay. Planning commission minutes. Water sewer reports. We got water authority minutes and the sewer authority minutes. No minutes. Engineers report?
The other thing I wanted to mention, for Morgan Corp, where you had the stormwater issue, when we sent the letter, Mr. Tom Moore was handling some of that, he's retired. I believe it's his supervisor's gonna take over for that, so he's aware of the issues and should be handling that moving forward, but we just wanted to mention that that was happening.
Speaking of Morgan Court, did you hear anything about the guardrail?
You approved it, so I sent the work request, or purchase order and work request off to Collinson.
Solicitors report.
I'm looking at my report to the board in advance of the meeting, and I believe that every subject has been covered and discussed at earlier parts of the agenda. I did include in my report 2 legal updates on state laws, one including the new bidding thresholds. In effect, for 2021, there's a slight increase in that threshold because it goes up with the CPI every year. So any contracts over $21,300 now require formal bidding. There's also a new law in effect that gives municipalities the right, of course not the obligation, to regulate personal delivery devices. Those would be your automatic delivery robots, believe it or not. So apparently the time is coming. I don't view that as a terribly sensitive issue. If you're very interested and you want to regulate those, you can, but your jurisdiction to do so is limited to just 1 or 2 things. Primarily, it'll be PennDOT regulating those automatic delivery robots.
And they can run down the road.
Sidewalk.
Going on the road.
On the sidewalks, they say it's coming.
Like when we drive ATVs and UTVs on the road that are registered and insured.
Good question.
Good question.
Something we can send out for lunch. Have to take it lunch and bring it back. Okay. Do we need executives for anything?
No.
Okay. All right. Tony?
I have nothing.
I have nothing.
Paul?
Nothing.
Alan?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.